The science of rebirth. Can extinct animals return? Imagine standing in a vast misty field at dawn. The air is crisp, the world is silent, until a deep, bone-chilling howl cuts through the stillness. It's a sound that once ruled these lands, a sound that hasn't echoed across the earth for over 10,000 years. But today, thanks to the relentless drive of science and innovation, it lives again. Close your eyes and imagine the Ice Age. Towering mammoths roam snowy plains, saber-toothed cats stalk the forests, and dire wolves, powerful and commanding, move as shadows across the frozen landscape. This was a world raw, untamed, and breathtaking. A world we thought we had lost forever. The dire wolf pack stands on a rocky outcrop, their dense white fur glistening under the pale moonlight. Below them, the vast frozen tundra stretches endlessly. Hunger gnaws at their bellies, but unity drives their strength. With a low growl, the alpha signals the hunt. They move as one, ghost-like, reclaiming the wilderness. It is a scene from 10,000 years ago, and impossibly, a scene from today. The Resurrection Revolution. Welcome to the extraordinary story of how humanity is challenging the finality of extinction itself. For centuries, we've accepted that when a species vanishes, it's gone forever. A one-way journey into oblivion. The dire wolf, Canis dirus, once among North America's most fearsome predators, vanished from Earth as the last ice age retreated. Their bones, preserved in the famous La Brea tar pits and scattered across the continent, were all that remained of their legacy. Until now, a visionary company, Colossal Biosciences, has embarked on a journey that sounds like science fiction, but is grounded in cutting-edge research. Their audacious mission transcends mere scientific curiosity. It aims to rewrite our relationship with the natural world, not as conquerors, but as restorers. At the heart of this revolution stands the dire wolf, larger than any modern wolf, with powerful jaws that could crush bone, and adapted to hunt the megafauna of its era. Through breakthrough genetic technologies, relentless scientific determination, and a willingness to challenge established boundaries, Colossal has begun to turn back time itself. The Ancient DNA Challenge. The journey to resurrect the dire wolf began with a single ancient tooth, unassuming, weathered by millennia, yet containing the blueprint of a lost species. Working with ancient DNA presents extraordinary challenges. Over thousands of years, genetic material degrades, fragmenting into increasingly smaller pieces. The older the specimen, the more difficult recovery becomes. Most ancient DNA recovered from Pleistocene remains offers only tantalizing fragments. 15% genome coverage at best, like having just a few pages from a 1,000-page book. Scientists needed a miracle. It came in the form of a 72,000-year-old dire wolf skull discovered in a remote cave system, preserved under remarkable conditions. Cold, dry, and isolated from bacterial contamination. Within this skull lay the key, the petrous bone, a tiny dense structure of the inner ear. This bone, the hardest in the mammalian body, acts as a fortress for DNA, protecting genetic material against the ravages of time. Dr. Heather Morris, lead paleogeneticist on the project, describes the moment. When we CT scanned the skull and saw the intact petrous bone, we knew we had something special. It was like finding the biological equivalent of the Rosetta Stone. In specialized clean rooms where technicians work in full bodysuits to prevent contamination, the team delicately extracted and processed the ancient material. Using next-generation sequencing technologies specifically optimized for degraded DNA, they achieved what was once thought impossible: over 13x genome coverage, enough to begin reconstructing the genetic blueprint of this extinct predator. But the work had only just begun. Decoding the dire wolf's essence. DNA is more than just a blueprint. It's a dynamic, complex instruction manual that determines every aspect of an organism's existence. Understanding which genetic elements made a dire wolf unique required computational power unimaginable even a decade ago. Using sophisticated bioinformatics algorithms, scientists compared the recovered dire wolf genome against 24 modern canid species. The goal: to identify the key genetic differences that made dire wolves distinct from their modern relatives. The team isolated 37 crucial genetic regions containing approximately 78 genes. These weren't just any genes. They encoded the very essence of what made a dire wolf a dire wolf. Its imposing size, specialized jaw and skull architecture, distinctive white coat, enhanced sense of smell, and social behaviors that made it an apex predator. Dr. Samantha Chen, Colossal's computational biologist, explains, "Each gene is like a word in a language that describes what makes this species unique. Some control physical traits like coat thickness or jaw strength, while others influence more subtle aspects, predatory instincts, pack behavior, or cold tolerance."
Nice.
The CRISPR revolution. Armed with this genetic roadmap, scientists turned to the revolutionary gene editing technology CRISPR-Cas9. While often described as genetic scissors, CRISPR is more like a sophisticated word processor that can edit the book of life with unprecedented precision. But editing these genes was far from straightforward. The team couldn't simply copy and paste dire wolf DNA into modern wolf cells. Instead, they had to make multiple precise edits to gray wolf genetic material, changing it to match the ancient dire wolf pattern. Each genetic change subjected host cells to immense biological stress. Multiplex gene editing, changing dozens of genes simultaneously, pushed the boundaries of current biotechnology. Cells, fragile under normal conditions, became battlegrounds of microscopic precision. "We experienced dozens of failures in the early stages," remembers Dr. Jake Reynolds, Colossal's chief genetic engineer. Cells would collapse under the strain. Embryos refused to develop past the early stages. Each failure taught us something new about the delicate balance between faithful recreation and biological viability. The team developed a staged approach, introducing changes in carefully planned sequences that allowed cells to adapt gradually. New culture mediums specifically formulated to support stressed cells were developed. Custom microfluidic systems delivered editing molecules with unprecedented precision. After 3 years of painstaking work, success, viable cells containing the key genetic signatures of the ancient dire wolf. From cells to sentience. Once the edited cells were created, the team faced the next monumental challenge, transforming these microscopic achievements into living, breathing animals. The process began with somatic cell nuclear transfer, SCNT, the same cloning technique used to create Dolly the sheep in 1996, but refined through decades of advancement. Scientists removed the nucleus from a gray wolf egg cell and replaced it with the nucleus from an edited cell, creating an embryo that carried the ancient code. These embryos faced a perilous journey. Of the initial 327 transfers, only 14 successfully implanted in surrogate mothers, specially selected gray wolves whose reproductive systems had been carefully monitored for optimal conditions. The world watched and waited. The howl returns. On a snowy December morning, under careful veterinary supervision, history was made. The birthing room, silent and sterile, erupted into quiet awe as the first cries of Romulus filled the air. His small frame trembled as he took his first breath, a moment that bridged 10,000 years of absence. Remus followed minutes later, strong and determined. 3 months after, their sister Casey entered the world, her coat as white and thick as ancient snow. Dr. Maria Gonzalez, Colossal's chief veterinarian, recalls the moment. "When Romulus took his first breath, I felt like I was witnessing the impossible." Here was a creature whose genetic lineage had been severed for millennia, now breathing the same air as us. The scientific achievement was momentous, but the emotional impact was equally profound. Today, these remarkable animals roam a vast, protected preserve stretching 2,000 acres across the northern Montana wilderness. Their thick coats shimmer under the sun. Their powerful frames move with an ancient grace that seems both familiar and alien. At only 5 months old, Romulus and Remus weighed over 80 pounds and measured more than 5 feet in length, already larger than adult gray wolves. Their fur, dense and pale like a polar bear's, hints at the cold environments their ancestors once ruled. Their skull structure shows the beginnings of the distinctive, wide, powerful jaw that made dire wolves such effective hunters. Even more astonishing is their behavior. Without training, they exhibit natural hunting patterns. Stalking, pouncing, coordinating in ways that differ subtly but significantly from modern wolves. Their howls, deep and haunting, echo through the preserve, reconnecting the present to a past long thought unreachable. Dr. Nathan Williams, behavioral biologist, describes a remarkable observation. When we introduced the pups to a fresh carcass, we expected to guide them. Instead, they instinctively circled it in a counterclockwise pattern, established a hierarchy for feeding, and used body positioning we've only seen in fossil records depicting dire wolf hunting patterns. Somehow, these ancient behaviors were encoded in their DNA, waiting to express themselves. True resurrection or scientific approximation? The scientific community remains divided on a fundamental question. Are these animals truly dire wolves? A 2021 genetic study published in Nature revealed that dire wolves diverged from gray wolves over 5.6 million years ago, making them about as related to modern wolves as humans are to chimpanzees. Though similar in appearance, they were fundamentally different species that couldn't interbreed. Critics argue that modifying a few dozen genes in a gray wolf genome cannot recreate a true dire wolf. Dr. Eleanor Park of Stanford University's Paleogenetics Lab cautions, "What Colossal has created is fascinating, but calling these animals dire wolves is misleading. They're genetically modified gray wolves with some dire wolf characteristics. The vast majority of their genome remains gray wolf." Colossal, however, presents a more nuanced view. They lean on the morphological species concept. If the animals look, behave, and can potentially occupy the same ecological role as their ancient counterparts, they fulfill the spirit of resurrection, if not the absolute genetic definition. As Dr. Beth Shapiro, Chief Science Officer at Colossal, eloquently puts it, species concepts are human-made frameworks. In the wild, life doesn't fit into neat boxes. What we've created is neither purely dire wolf nor gray wolf. It's something new yet ancient, a bridge between past and present. The question isn't whether they're authentic dire wolves, but whether they can help us understand our planet's past and secure its future. Beyond resurrection, a new conservation paradigm. Beyond the semantics of species definitions lies Colossal's broader vision, using the technologies of de-extinction to save life as we know it. Already, the techniques refined through the Dire Wolf Project are being applied to critical conservation efforts. Red wolves, once abundant across the southeastern United States, now teeter on the brink of extinction. Fewer than 20 individuals remain in the wild, their genome polluted by hybridization with coyotes. By cloning pure specimens from preserved tissues and introducing fresh genetic diversity, Colossal hopes to breathe new life into this imperiled species. The northern white rhino faces an even bleaker reality. Only 2 females survive. Scientists are racing against time, using cloned embryos and surrogate mothers from the related southern white rhino in a desperate attempt to prevent complete annihilation. Asian elephants in captivity battle deadly herpes virus infections that kill 80% of affected calves. Colossal is pioneering genetic resistance through selective breeding and gene editing techniques that could save countless lives. Dr. Michael Peterson, conservation biologist with the World Wildlife Fund, notes, "The technologies developed for the Dire Wolf Project represent a paradigm shift. Conservation is no longer just about preserving what remains. It's about actively restoring what we've lost and strengthening what's vulnerable." Ecological implications. History offers a powerful lesson about the role of apex predators. When gray wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park in 1995, scientists witnessed a trophic cascade, an ecological domino effect that transformed the entire landscape. Elk populations, unchecked for decades, were brought under control. Vegetation recovered along riverbanks, reducing erosion. Beaver populations rebounded, creating new habitats. Rivers changed course. The entire ecosystem resurged with new vitality. Without apex predators, ecosystems crumble. Prey species explode in number, vegetation is stripped bare, soil erodes, and waterways degrade. It's a phenomenon scientists call ecological release, and its consequences ripple through every level of an ecosystem. Imagine the possibilities if dire wolves, or their modern counterparts, could one day fulfill similar roles in carefully managed preserves. Could they help control invasive species, restore balance to damaged ecosystems, serve as living laboratories for understanding predator-prey dynamics? Dr. Lily Rodriguez, ecosystem engineer at Colossal, envisions a carefully phased approach. We're not suggesting releasing dire wolves into Yellowstone tomorrow. But in controlled settings, we can study how these animals might influence ecosystem health, potentially developing new strategies for restoring damaged landscapes. Still, caution is paramount. Rewilding large predators comes with significant risks to ecosystems, to other species, and to human communities. Colossal is moving deliberately, ensuring that the resurrected animals remain under careful supervision while their ecological impacts are thoroughly studied. The ethics of resurrection. Beyond the science and conservation potential, dire wolf resurrection raises profound ethical questions that extend to the very heart of humanity's relationship with nature. Is resurrecting extinct species an audacious act of hope or reckless hubris? Dr. Jane Goodall once warned about de-extinction. We must tread carefully. Nature is complex, and every action has unforeseen ripples. Are we playing God because we can or because we should? Yet others, like Dr. George Church, Harvard geneticist and Colossal co-founder, argue that failing to act would be a greater sin. Extinction is not a closed door. It's a call to innovate. Humans have caused the extinction of countless species. Don't we have a moral obligation to use our technology to make amends? Gene editing, even when executed with precision, can produce unforeseen consequences. Animals might suffer unanticipated health problems. Ecosystems might react unpredictably. The technology could be misused or commercialized in problematic ways. Indigenous perspectives offer another vital dimension to the conversation. Many Native American tribes hold wolves sacred in their cultural traditions. The Pawnee people called dire wolves spirit wolves and believed they guided souls to the afterlife. How might resurrection impact these cultural beliefs? John Blackfeather, elder of the Oglala Lakota Nation, offers a nuanced view. Our stories teach that all life is connected in the Great Circle. If the spirit of the dire wolf chooses to return through the hands of humans, perhaps there is wisdom in that. But the question is, will these creatures be treated with the respect they deserve? Or will they become curiosities for human entertainment? Yet proponents argue that humanity already alters nature profoundly, often destructively. If we accept the responsibility for past harms, should we not also embrace the opportunity to repair them? A vision of tomorrow. The cost of inaction is staggering. Scientists warn that by 2050, as many as half of all species alive today could disappear. Entire ecosystems could collapse, unraveling the delicate web that sustains human civilization itself. Colossal's work with dire wolves is only the beginning of a broader vision for ecological restoration. By 2028, the company hopes to introduce a cold-resistant elephant hybrid resembling the woolly mammoth. These animals could help stabilize Arctic permafrost, slowing the release of greenhouse gases and potentially mitigating climate change. Plans are underway to revive the dodo, restoring vital seed dispersal roles in island ecosystems ravaged by human colonization. The Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, might one day prowl Australian landscapes again, helping to control invasive species that have devastated native wildlife. Each project is a moonshot, high risk, high reward, pushing the boundaries of science, ethics, and imagination. But more than spectacle, they represent a paradigm shift. A future where conservation is dynamic, innovative, and courageous. Picture the year 2150. Great herds of cold-adapted elephants roam the Arctic, turning tundras into living carbon sinks. The haunting calls of resurrected dodos fill the air over restored island paradises. Thylacines, once legends, slip silently through Australian forests. Humanity finally has become a careful gardener rather than a careless conqueror. The howl of a dire wolf, silent for millennia, now rises once again under the open sky. It speaks not of ancient ghosts, but of humanity's evolving role, not just as stewards of nature, but as healers, architects of a more vibrant world. In every gene edited, every endangered species saved, every ecosystem revived, we glimpse a future where hope conquers loss, where the story of life on Earth continues to unfold, richer and wilder than ever before. The past may be gone, but the future is ours to write. And perhaps, if we listen closely, we will hear more than howls across the wind. We will hear a call to action, a call to remember, to restore, and to rise. The science of rebirth has begun. And with it, a new era of human responsibility, one defined not by what we can take from the earth, but by what we can return. Because in the end, the greatest legacy we leave behind will not be monuments or machines, but life itself, vibrant and enduring, woven back into the very fabric of the planet we call home.